Hello, I'm Emma Hammett from First Aid for Life and onlinefirstaid.com, and today I'm going to talk to you about burns. There is new advice on first aid for the treatment of burns. There's been a lot of research done across the UK, in Britain and in Australia too, where they have come up with a consensus as to the very best treatment for first aid for burns, and this has now been adopted by the NHS, by all the first aid training companies and by the British Burns Association. There are 13,000 burns treated in British hospitals every year, so that's just the ones that need treating in hospital. About 70% of all paediatric burns occur in under 4s, and that's because they get into everything, little ones, and they can quite easily pull hot cups of tea over them, get under things, grab curling brushes and curling tongs and things like that. So there's a whole additional issue and advice about keeping your under 4s safe from burns, because it is a very serious cause of injury to them. Just remember, a cup of tea, even if it's been poured 10 minutes ago, can still be hot enough to cause their skin damage. 10% of all the burns occur in older people as well, and they're more likely to be linked with fatalities, unfortunately. So again, older people, there's whole articles I've got on staysafe.support and on First Aid for Life and onlinefirstaid.com about keeping older people safe from burns. It's similar advice about trip hazards, hot liquids, and just making sure that they are safe. And a third of all burns are work-related, which I find staggering. So just make sure that when you're at work, there are proper arrangements for if you do get burnt, and that's particularly if you're working in kitchens or you're working with acids or hot liquids or anything at all. So burns are serious. I've worked in the burns unit. It's nasty, and people that are burnt very often carry those physical and emotional scars with them for forever. So anyway, the new advice, the Australian research team, their centre, their children's burns unit, have been looking across all the different studies that have been done in burns and the treatment of burns, and they have examined and re-examined and looked through all the evidence. Now, a lot of the studies that were done have been done in rats. And rats have got a different way of healing following burns, so actually they are not as relevant to the appropriate treatment as studies that have been done in pigs, or actually observational work that has been done when humans have been burnt. So at the end of this consensus, they have decided, and they have evidence, backed up evidence that I have in the associated article on onlinefirstaid.com that you can read with the references, that instead of treating burns for at least 10 minutes, which has been historically the first aid treatment, they now say burns should be treated for a full 20 minutes under cool running water between 2 and 15 degrees centigrade. Celsius, sorry. So they should be treated under cool running water for a full 20 minutes. Now, after 20 minutes, there's no demonstrable benefit, but it takes a full 20 minutes for you to gain the proper benefit from cooling the burn. Don't use ice or icy water because that has been associated with fatalities from hypothermia. So although cooler water is associated with a better outcome from the burn, the risks of the hypothermia are far greater. What it does, treating burns in this way, is it reduces the tissue damage, so it will be treating that burn. It increases the speed of the wound epithelialization, the healing of the wound. It reduces the scarring, it reduces the hospital stay, and it reduces the requirement for grafting and scar management. Now, they've done further investigations on this as to when is the best time or how long is that treatment still valid for. Now, immediate treatment is best, and that's of no surprise. However, it is still of benefit to treat the burn under cool running water for a full 20 minutes between an hour and 3 hours after the initial injury. So it is still beneficial, and it still has a really clear, makes a clear difference to the way that the wound heals and the speed at which it heals and the amount of scarring required. Always get burns checked by a health professional, particularly if it's babies, children or older people involved. There's much more information on this in our article on onlinefirstaid.com, so in our blog there, with references to the documents and the studies that they've looked at. But the new advice that all the first aid training companies and the British Burns Association and the NHS are now following is you cool a burn for a full 20 minutes under cool running water. And it will still work and still help up to 3 hours after the initial injury has taken place. I hope that's helpful. That's Emma Hammett from First Aid for Life and onlinefirstaid.com.